background. You are live. Yes, we are live, and welcome to another episode of Money and Mindset at 40 Plus, where we invite you to play big, conquer those money fears, money stories, so you can have the life that you desire. I am Sylvia.
And I am Jenny.
And we are thrilled to have you here and to have our special guest, Amanda Perrot. I was going to call her Amanda Perrot, as I do in Montreal, but it's Perrot. Welcome, Amanda.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so excited.
We are thrilled to have you. Amanda, I am just so happy that you're here. We have lots of things. We could probably sit here and talk for an hour because you talk about stepping up, using your voice, and that is my platform. And Jenny, our whole podcast is about using our voices, stepping up, playing bigger. And so let's just jump right in. How do you know each other? Because Jenny, Amanda was your suggestion. We have to have her on the show.
Oh, yeah.
So I want to know how you guys met.
So can I start, Amanda, and you can pick
Absolutely.
up?
Yeah.
So I attended a conference where there were these amazing decals that were in my grab bag, and it said Grounded Goodness at the bottom. And I went, oh my God, what a cute name. I'd have to find out more. And I think I signed up for your email list. So that's a plug, groundedgoodness.com. And I love your emails. I think actually I've gotten to know you more through your emails than anything. And that was when I reached out to book a call. So that's how we met. Do you have anything to add to that fun story?
Yeah. I know when you first reached out, that was in the fall and life was crazy. And you're like, we should connect. And I was like, yes. And then life got crazy and we finally connected in January it was. And in that Zoom call, I was like, oh, this is a soul sister. Like, here we go. We're like lifelong buddies. So thank you for reaching out. I'm really glad to be here. And then to also hang out with you, Sylvia.
Oh, well, I'm so thrilled. And I love that name, Grounded Goodness.
I know.
It is so grounding, that name. It's amazing. And everybody go on the website. We're going to give it, we'll put this back up, but Grounded Goodness. And you're going to see all that Amanda does. And she'll talk to you a little bit about that. But what we wanted to know, and Jenny, you were going to start us off with questions. And if you have questions in the comments, please put them, Stacy's listening and she's saying hello to everyone. Looking
Stacey.
Good, ladies. I feel we look like the Charlie's Angels again today. We've got this Charlie's Angels vibe going. So ask your questions in the comments. Amanda's here to answer them. But Jenny, take us away.
All right. I get the first crack at this. So Amanda, what happened in your life that caused you to be so passionate about speaking up?
Ooh. So before the show started, I was talking about how shy I was. So from the age of 2 on, I was really, really shy. Mom said that I was just talking to Mom recently about this, and she said something happened when I was about 2 years old. Before that point, I was super bubbly, extroverted, outgoing. And then at the age of 2, something switched where I chose to be more introverted and more shy. And it feels like the last few decades are this uncovering of me, of coming back to myself, which is that bubbly extrovert who just wants to have fun and connect with people. So are you guys like that too, maybe? Just a little bit?
You think?
Look, I'm in the middle of
But I'm so impressed that your mom said that too. She noticed that. I'm going to go back and think on my story and see when that happened. But I just recall, and I had put that in a show, and Amanda says, you said the same thing, Sylvia. I was like, I wish I would cross the road when other people would be, in front of me. Yes. I didn't want to, be seen.
Exactly. That visibility that don't speak up. And I think actually I was talking to my mom as well. And she said that she taught us, I have 4 sisters. So there's 5 girls in my family. And she taught us to be nice, to be good girls. Yeah. And she said, I kind of wish that I hadn't fully done that. But I live my life being that way, of being the nice girl, keep your mouth shut, be the peacemaker, all of that. And there's been a few instances in my life where I was like, no, I refuse to do that. I can't do that because I'm killing my soul. And so, the biggest thing in terms of me really using my voice was getting out of my marriage and getting divorced and going through those difficult conversations over a few years. And it was awful and painful. but the amount of confidence that I received, that I gained from that, was incredible. And my life has flipped where I'm like, let's do this. Let's go, ladies. So yeah.
Could you speak a little bit about the trip you took during or after the divorce? Was it just before, or what was the symbolism?
It was just after the divorce, actually. So my husband left in June. That sounds bad. Like he left. But he didn't leave me. It was not like that. It was a mutual decision. But in June of 2017, and then the following summer in 2018, I went on a road trip around Saskatchewan called Saskatchewan Sisterhood, the power of women's voices. And I co-hosted 15 events around the province, brought women in, had speakers, panelists, and built this community of amazing, incredible women who were all striving to speak up, to use their voices, to gain that confidence. And that trip was life-changing. It truly was. And then I wrote a book from it. Like there's a lot of stuff going on.
What's your book called? What's your book called from there, Amanda?
Yeah, it's called 47 Days, A Journey Back Home. So my road trip was 47 days, and I talk about what I learned about myself, about humanity, about speaking up. So yeah.
What would be your main thing that you would share from that
road
experience?
Trip? Yeah. One of the things that I always come back to is this theme, and this is in terms of talking with all these other women, is that everybody feels so alone. Everybody feels so alone in their situations. So for me, I was going through a divorce, and I was the first one in my family to get divorced. I felt like this awkward, weird duckling, right? So I wanted to go find people like me, and I did. But there's so many people, so many women that feel alone in their particular situations. But the common thread is that I feel alone. Or another theme that I saw was, I'm not enough. I'm not worthy, right? So like the situations are different, but those common threads are there. And so if we can find those common threads and connect over that, that's when we feel seen and heard and part of this sisterhood. I don't even know if this is like, does this make sense?
Oh yeah.
Oh, it totally does. These are the conversations that we have, Jenny and I, all the time about wanting, and Jenny and I think our sisterhood together goes back a long ways, and that feeling that, you know what, I can tell Jenny anything because I know she's going to understand. She may not have lived it, but she will understand because she has similar, things going on in her life. And that is so important. I love that idea of a trip. Yeah. Jenny, I think, let's go visit Amanda.
I know. So something I have been noticing, and I wonder if maybe you could help me unpack it, Amanda, is, we talk a lot on the show about stories. When these women tell you, I have found that when I tell stories, they lose a little bit of their power over me. And I wondered if there was something you'd seen with these women where, for example, the divorce story of your healing of telling it, I'm getting goosebumps, right? Like telling it was part of the journey. Have you noticed that?
And so just to clarify, it loses its power. Like it doesn't have such a hold on you.
On you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, that's exactly it. I think there's a lot of shame and guilt that comes up with our stories, right? Like we want to hide them away, and we don't think that anybody could possibly understand. But that, right? I love this. It's like back and forth and like the clarifying. That's the power of like women speaking and connecting. It's that clarification. But that's exactly it. We give voice to it. It's like a lot of Brene Brown work, right? Like the power of vulnerability and all of that, and sharing our stories. And it's when we feel seen and heard, and people simply nod their heads or, give us that encouragement to keep going, then it's like, oh, I'm not alone. There's value in sharing my story. And when somebody comes up to you afterward and is like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I went through. Thank you for sharing this. This makes me feel better. And then maybe I can share my story too, which is like this light bulb moment,
I think part of the work, and what I'm hearing from you, Amanda, is, being seen. I don't talk about being seen exterior words. We first have to see ourselves. So I think that's such an important work, and that's scary work to dig deep. And I think before our message can be heard, it has to be clear. for ourselves. Does that make sense?
It does. I think just a side note on that, there's been times where I've shared my stories, but they're too raw. Like I haven't processed them, right? So then it's like this verbal diarrhea over everybody, and it doesn't help because I haven't processed them enough to the point where I'm like, this is what I learned. This is what came out of this, right? So I think that has to be done first.
And we can see that on videos. I have attended, live videos from people where all of a sudden, like, they are just spewing and spewing and spewing. And I said, oh my gosh, I don't, like you said, that hasn't been processed yet. And then when I talk about visibility, that's not what I'm saying is, just let it all out. But sharing, I like that, sharing stories, but having, what is it? Yeah. What am I feeling? Where am I going with this? Have I processed it? Yeah.
Yeah. Because it doesn't serve anybody, right? It doesn't serve you. Because if you share that kind of stuff, it's raw. And not that it's wrong. It's just, what's your goal? What's your purpose?
Right.
Is it to teach, to coach? Then kind of remember that.
So we're getting some feedback. Colleen says, Amanda's story totally resonates with me. Emoji. She says, a quote, I love who I've been, but I really love who I'm becoming. Oh my God, that's gorgeous. Love this. This is what's so the great power of having this interactive stuff with our community. I'll read Stacey's as well. Powerful. Totally. The more we share, the less that stories have on us. I never thought of it like that, but I have experienced that too. Agree. Can I pick up on something? So, we're doing a workshop on Monday and it was really interesting. Somebody reached out and said, along those lines, I want to come to the workshop, but I'm worried there's going to be all that sharing and like giving of yourself. And her comment was, I'm not quite ready for that yet. And what I said to her was something along the lines of, it wasn't very pretty what I said, but we're here to hold space for you to share what you're ready to share. This isn't about, like you said, Sylvia, verbal diarrhea. My tragedy is worse than your tragedy. No. I think we get into that sometimes. And just for a chance to normalize, there's a word, our stories, that you're not alone. And that was my wish for her. I hope she's going to join us. But do women often say that to you? Like, I couldn't possibly share how bad it's been or the things that have happened to me.
Yes. Sorry. I just need to pause. I need to get off camera. This cat hair is still up my nose.
It's so real. I love it.
I've got weeping eyes today. Not that I'm crying, but look at this. We're going to take a moment here.
A little bit of levity. We like to have fun, don't we?
Right. Well, that's a thing though, right? Like that goes back into our conversation about being real and honest. And this is where we're at. Cat hair, weepy eyes, But yeah, Jenny, I have seen that so much, right? Yeah. Where people are like, they feel pulled, they want to join, they're craving that connection in that community, but they're like, oh gosh, do I have to share my feelings? And I think how you responded is brilliant and beautiful. Yeah. And I think if the expectation for you as hosts is that show up exactly as you are, right? You don't want them to show up any differently. And in my work, it's the same thing. When I host groups for women, it's like, just show up. And it's our job as facilitators to create that comfort from the get-go, right? And so I think it comes back to that person leaning into that discomfort and trusting that pull is there for a reason and that there's something in that for them. So, yeah.
And I think when someone says, I'd really like to do that, but there's something holding me back. That's really what she's saying, this person, right? So I invite everybody, whenever that comes to you, to lean in, like Amanda says, and do it. Because if it's calling you, there's a reason it's calling you.
Exactly.
And that discomfort, oh my gosh, have we ever sat in that discomfort before? Definitely. Oh, yeah. But those are the times of our lives where we grow the most.
Yes.
Sure. In all personal, our workshop is about personal. There's going to be personal parts to it. There's business and career, and there's wealth. I mean, I can sit in discomfort in all of those areas, right? But we're going to have fun anyway, Jenny. That's. Can you speak, Amanda? I'd love to. We're talking about bringing all these women together. So sisterhood, and when you say speaking up through sisterhood, what does that mean?
Yeah. So all of my events. So I started hosting events in 2016, and we started out and they're called Sisterhood. And that was because I have 4 sisters and I invited them to join me at this event. But that has stayed true throughout the last 5 years. What I mean by that is we need good women in our lives to reflect back to us, to mirror to us our brilliance, because we all experience that discomfort, that self-doubt, that, oh, like my voice isn't important. What I have to say isn't important. But if we have good women, sisters around us to hold space for us, to let us be, let us express, let us voice whatever's going on, then we can gain that confidence. If I said that, if I did that, like what else can I do? You know, so it's that holding space, that positive reflection. I will say that there is a difference between supportive sisterhood and more competitive sisterhood.
Oh, yes.
Right? Your reactions are priceless.
we both, Jenny and I, if you've never met us before, if this is the first time you're showing up, we met in music school. I was in the opera singing program. I mean, talk about competitive and the knives in the back. I mean, that is why I left. That was just not my jive. So yes, Jenny, that's where you get those faces, Amanda.
You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. And while that competition can serve us in certain ways, you know, to push us forward, propel us, there comes a point where it's, no, can you just hold space for me to be me? That's all I need, right? And I will do the same for you.
So I'm going to pick up on the first conversation with Amanda. I'm going to share this. She got me talking, and she asked me questions, and I said about 15 minutes, 20 minutes in, I said, Amanda, thank you for listening. And, you know, often when I go into calls, it's blah, 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 me, blah, 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 me, blah, blah. And she understood the idea of a conversation goes back and forth. It's like a tennis game, and that we learn from each other. And, you know, I know that sounds like a really simple thing, but it's so powerful when you let someone hold space for someone, I guess, to use your language, to share what they like, and what they say about themselves can be so telling, right, Amanda? Like how they show up and what they share with you.
Yeah.
So powerful.
And I'm kind of more on the woo-woo end of the spectrum sometimes. So like, it's not even just about the voice and the vocal sharing. It's the subtle stuff. It's the energy, right? And it's like, when you just simply listen, you can pick up on all of that. And then you can ask the questions like, wait, what's that? Well, there's something there. What's that? I wanted to actually share, because I know that you guys have this YouTube channel. You're launching a podcast, which is great.
It launches on Monday.
Launches on Monday.
International Women's
Next
Day.
50.
Oh, I'm so excited. Okay. I'll keep that. But, and it's about like women and leadership, right? Like a lot, like that's a big part of it. And back to the listening piece, somebody asked me last year, this was online, and they're like, you said in your bio that you're a really good listener, but like, what does listening have to do with leadership? And it was almost like a judgment, or like, that's like bullshit. Oh, no. Okay. That's the first swear. And I paused and I responded in a kind way, but I was like, leadership has everything to do with listening, right? There's, as much as it's like encourage people to speak up and use their voices and share their knowledge and their wisdom, that listening is a huge part of it. So thank you guys for listening to me. Like, this is actually really weird that you two are holding space for me. This is
well, you're often in that leadership position, right? And what a great point, because we've all worked for other people before, and it's never, you know, and I talked to others about not liking their workspace or whatever. It's not usually about what they are doing. It is about their people. And usually it's their immediate supervisors, and they don't feel heard. You know, they are doing the jobs, and their supervisors, I think we've all been there, and there are good leaders and bad leaders. Yes.
We don't leave jobs. We leave leaders.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
very astute, Jenny.
Have you? I'm assuming both of you have left jobs because of the leaders.
Oh yes.
well,
I know this is like a dumb question because
confession. It's even better than that. I would even confession here that I've almost exclusively worked for myself. So you can extrapolate what you want from that one, Amanda. But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I understand that completely. Like, I made the leap from oil and gas corporate world in 2012 to become my own boss. And it's amazing the freedom that it's afforded me, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, huge pay cut, but the freedom is
Well,
incredible.
So to pick up on one of the phrases we use a lot is you are 100% responsible for your choices, right? So if you approach the world and your power in the world that way, it really kind of simplifies things. I think we as women, we can get hidden or hide behind the stories we tell, or the stories we receive, or the stories we're told. And I love that analogy of like removing back down to your essence. Someone described this to me one time, and it's really stuck in my head, in my gut, that your essence doesn't change. So for you, Amanda, where you before too, you were this essence. And then this personality, I'm holding my hands up in the air for those of you that are listening, is the thing that goes over top of your essence so that you can cope. And I was like, oh, does it have to be that way? Right? So maybe there's a way that we unpack our personality. Personality is our coping mechanisms, not who we are. Our essence is who we are. And that really gives me hope that we can truly show up aligned, generous, kind, sincere, and be really, it's not even about being accepted, it's accepting ourselves, to Sylvia's point about inside out. Yes. Ooh, that sounded good, didn't it?
Yeah, like have you sent an email about that? You should send an email about that.
It's finally distilled, yeah.
Well, what I see about, relating to Amanda's story and our stories, we talk about money stories a lot, and all the stories that we help. When you're 2 years old, what do you don't know? I mean, you have the people in your lives are the role models, right? So I think it's until we come out and are able to be independent of those role models, that is when we can start, I think, being ourselves. But then we get into the relationships, and that is another, I'm looking at this folding, like who is coming over me? We have bosses who start telling us how to be, and it can be a challenge to shine and show that brilliance throughout it all. It that strength. What I'm feeling is that it requires strength and others around you to hold that strength.
All right, you've got cat hair issues again. I can tell.
I do.
There you go. Go ahead. So when you come back, for those of you that are listening, and I'm going to ask Amanda for some resources in a second, to sort of things that we can do from here. But I want to encourage our listeners to put questions in the chat. I want to encourage our listeners to, is this resonating with you? Have you felt that you've had to change your personality, adapt your personality to cope? Which I find really depressing. I have to unpack that one a little bit. But maybe Amanda, resources, places to start, ideas, and how can people stay in touch with you? Because your energy is really very, very special.
Thank you. Yeah. So to answer your second question, groundedgoodness.com. That's our website. If you want to sign up for our email newsletter, that's the best place to keep in touch with me. Jenny's like, yeah.
It's really great. I highly recommend it. It's just like a little droplet of goodness in my inbox. Yes, please do.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And actually, we are in the process of updating our website, so it's not the prettiest right now. So I will apologize for that. But resources, there's so many books out there. And I always go back to Brene Brown. I started with her books 10 years ago about, unpacking that worthiness, the vulnerability, all of that. This is actually interesting. This is coming up. I didn't think I would share about this, but access consciousness is a modality that I've been involved with for 5, 6, 7 years. And it has helped me through so much change. And it's just simply being okay with who you are and knowing that actually who you are is what the gift that this world needs. So that's been really, really helpful. In terms of my own stuff, I offer coaching. I do group coaching and one-on-one coaching, and we'll do events again once we can in person, just to bring women together to have these kinds of conversations, to know that you're not alone in feeling this way, and unpacking those layers of your personality and coming back to yourself. Right. So, yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I just feel my cup is full, Sylvia. There's something about this that's This is why we did this, Sylvia. It was a good idea to have a podcast. It was a good idea to bring people along. Thank you for all of your ideas, your thoughts, your genuineness, Amanda. I really appreciate your energy. Thank you.
And I am so sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, yes, thank you so much. It's so in alignment. And, before the show, we were chatting about sitting in that discomfort. And, sometimes people make it look really easy. And we were talking about how after 35 episodes, Jenny and I, it does flow, right? It's easier than when we first started, but we invite everyone to start somewhere. No matter what that is, right? Is it an Instagram? Is it a channel? Is it a clubhouse? Is it doing videos and interviews or writing? Start somewhere to share your voices because you are important.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing yours.
Thank you. And I want to add one thing to that. That discomfort. Jenny, you had sent me an email proof last night, and you had talked about getting rid of that voice or like the being too much. And I was thinking about it. That discomfort is exactly the pathway to follow that, right? We can't ever push that away. So if you're uncomfortable, lean into it. Yeah. Cool. But thank you guys. Sorry, go ahead.
I was afraid you were going to say that, Amanda. I figured you were going to say that. Yeah.
But you already knew that, Jenny.
I already knew that. I was just looking for my coach to validate it, but absolutely.
Thank you both for having me. I really, really appreciate it.
It's been great. Okay, so folks, this is our last sign off for Money and Mindset at 40 Plus. We become on Monday your next 50, and your next 50 represents you've got 50 years left on this planet. What the heck are you going to do with it, and what's your legacy going to be, and how are you going to show up? So if you haven't signed up for the workshop yet, it's on Monday. Tickets we're almost sold out. So if you want to grab one, you probably should grab it today. You can do that by Googling Eventbrite, Your Next 50, or we'll have them in the show notes. And okay, one more shameless plug. Sorry, guys, it's a plug day. March 8th is International Women's Day. If you're not attending our workshop, I want to challenge you. Reach out to one woman in your life that you appreciate and send them a special text to tell them that they matter, because the sisterhood idea that you've planted here today, Amanda, is very powerful, and we need to make sure that we honor it. That's what I want to say. Wonderful.
Yes, thank you so much. Have a wonderful week. We look forward to seeing you all on Monday. Amanda, we're all going to follow you. We've signed up to your newsletter this morning. I can't wait to have a bit of goodness in my email box as well. So have a wonderful week, and we will catch you next week.
Bye,
everyone.